I'm going to start by beginning to ask one question. And I'm going to throw it out to all of you. So everyone, feel free to just chime in as you want. How do you define the relationship between faith and mental health? Someone? Anyone?
I can. So it shouldn't be faith or mental health. Based on what we learned today, if we're tripartite in nature, then is an integration, not a separation. So it should not be science or God, because science is not the opposite of God. Science is the expression of God. So faith and therapy, faith and mental health should be one, integrated. So we may call it faith integrated mental health.
I love that.
Amen. And I'll add that faith and mental health, they're not enemies, they're partners. So when you look at something interwoven, they can be looked at as a shared experience so that they're safe and that the persons or individuals that are hoping to receive the care, they can feel safe and relationship.
Yeah.
Anyone
Thank
else?
you. And just to add to that, the Bible says we live by faith, period. That includes our mental health. And James talks about, don't just tell me, be well and, talk about faith. It says, show me your faith by what you do. And that includes taking care of ourselves, taking care of our mental health. That our expression of faith is doing everything we have in our purview and our power and resources to be able to optimize our mental health.
Thank you.
What they said.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Dr. Tiwa, I love the exercise that you did when the woman in the parking lot expressed that she needed some help and helping us to decide the best courses of action to give her what she needed. And so the question I have now that was a little bit bigger than that, what can we as a church do to help people who are not just in crisis, but who simply need a little bit more help and to support them as caregivers? Because a lot of us are supporting other people. How can the church do a better job of helping facilitate that? And that's for anyone.
I think there's a lot that the church can do. So I would start with basically building on what we're doing right now, which is making church a safe place to talk about mental health. And some of that really just comes from understanding the nature of mental health, understanding I think also to some extent, understanding the things that we've talked about this morning, how mental health conditions come about, how they're treated, what they look like when they manifest, and how to sort of figure out when it's time to involve the professionals. So I think there's a lot that we can do, but honestly, I think the simplest, one of the simplest and most forthright ways to do this is just have people tell their stories and listen without judgment or without preconception. I think that can be one of the best ways we can start to make church a safe space.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm just going to chip into that. One other thing that Dr. Shoyinka and also Dr. Tiwa had spoken about earlier is a little bit about epigenetics and prevention. And so we look at our world today. One of the things that is happening is mental health is on the rise. But the other thing is happening is the breaking down of communities. And so one of the things we all can do is kind of extend that kind heart, being there, being supportive of each other, being able to be that listening ear, loving without judging. And that's what God wants us to do. So you see somebody going through a lot, you don't have to be like, that's she's weird. I don't know what her problem is. Kind of stepping back to say, what is she going through? How can I love this person through their pain? Those are things we can all do. And that's definitely one of the things that if we do more of that, the rise that we see in mental health will probably start to kind of come back down because we're turning on genes of kindness, of healing, and turning off the ones that make us ill.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd love to highlight again just the importance of community. Like you said, Dr. Shoyinka, a lot of the work I've been doing, just like as a volunteer, and like I said, I call myself a mental health advocate. I have not gone to school, but I've been doing a lot of like trainings on the side, such as mental health first aid. But also one thing that I've been looking into a lot specifically is doing a lot of work in terms of suicide prevention. And so one thing that is one of the major indicators specifically for those who are at higher risk of suicide is isolation. So again, also in the greater terms of mental health also, it's like doing something as simple as just like being present, like I said, doesn't take a ton, like just show up. It doesn't, again, you don't need a license to do that. If you see somebody even after church who's just kind of like hanging out by themselves, go say like, hey, I'm Leah, like, how's your weekend been? And so it's just those small steps to start right there that I think are so critical to start with.
Those are great ideas.
So I'll just add that if the first question is how can we be the good Samaritan in the Bible? I think that's the question when I hear it is the Levite probably prayed and just, I gotta go. I have a church service right now. Was it the scribe? And then the I'm just gonna call him the Gentile that was just like, you know what? Whatever he needs, I'll take care of it. Although I'm going, I'll be back to take care of whatever expenses. And I feel like that's where we need to be the first church, but I'm part of the body of Christ. I'm the first church. So if Dr. Esther is going through stuff, I'm the first church to her, not the building. I represent that first church. What would you need? So if each of us can be the first responder, I feel like that will shift because we represent the church. The church is a building. The church is Jesus Christ. But I can be Jesus' hands and feet. Just like even in the case of my presentation, if we can be that conscious, I think that would help us to choose our words kindly, our actions nicely, and we are more thoughtful in everything we do. And it may require that shift in intention and awareness. Even bringing to church, studies have shown coming to church improves mental health. It decreases mortality rate, including cardiovascular problems. So going to church at least more than once a week, actually, you can live longer just because you have people and connection. So how can I'm only responsible for myself. How can I be responsible for myself to deliver that support? And if all of us were contributing that way to be the safe space, to be the listening ear, to be the trusted lips, to be the resources, not just prayer. I'll pray for you is great, but prayer and money and food, and I will pay for your therapy sessions, and I will pay for your son's school fees. And that's how we can be that community. And as a church, people can look to us and look to God, and God can be glorified.
Thank you so much. I love that.
Just a couple more thoughts. So as we were speaking, I was reminded of something that I think is Dr. Jen that said it yesterday, and it's with regards to the language that we use around mental health issues. So very often, language is powerful. What we call something, how we label something, it really does matter. Very often when we encounter a person that has symptoms, showing symptoms or experiencing symptoms, we ask them, what is wrong with you? A kinder way, and maybe even a more appropriate way, in the light of what we've heard about trauma, to inquire might be, what happened to you? The first implies a failing or flaw in that person. The second recognizes and acknowledges that what Dr. Oshofisa said, we are living in a fallen world that will give us many things at us that can elicit all these responses and can actually traumatize us. So I think that's one thing, is to change the language that we use, in addition to everything else that's been said. And I want to pull on, finally, something that Leah said. There is a place for church members and a church to invest in training and learning how to respond. There are actual evidence-informed and evidence-based tools, such as mental health first aid, that actually trains people how to respond to people in crisis. And I will go further and say, in our system in Philadelphia, this has been standardized. It's been rolled out in many churches across the metro area. So there is precedent for it, and it does work. I'll stop with that.
Thank you so much.
Can I just really add
yes.
something? I want to encourage everyone, please be nicely nosy. Ask questions. Go after people. Don't wait until they come to you. I'm not saying go be nosy so you can spread their business, but go be nosy a little bit because you care. How was your day? What did you do? Don't just stay with the good. Ask a little bit more. Dig deeper.
Thank you. Those are all suggestions that we can all start incorporating today. So thank you so much. We have questions. Dr. Nikkei is going to ask some questions of the panelists.
So we're going to go straight into it. The first question says, how do you address the stigma on medication and God? Someone says, girl, just pray. And then the second part of that question says, how do you know what you need when the doctors don't? Do you want me to read it again?
No, it's all right. It strikes me that you're looking right at me. That's fine. So why medication? I think this is a very candid, very real question to ask. A manifestation of stigma is that people think about medications for mental health differently than they think about medications for other chronic medical conditions, some of which are more fatal or more immediately fatal. So we think that taking medications for mental health conditions is somehow different than treating heart failure, for which people often take medications for a long time, or to prevent strokes, or to treat hyperlipidemia, or to treat diabetes, or hypertension, or cancers, or any number of conditions. I think it's a basic. So the concerns that people often will surface will be along the lines of, well, I don't want to take these things that I don't know. They may change my thinking. They may impact my brain. They will change the chemistry of my brain. The fact is that many other classes of medications, including those that I've mentioned for all those different conditions, will also affect the chemistry of your brain. Many of them. They're just not labeled as such. I shared my own experience with a beta blocker. It was for something completely unrelated to mental health, but it had mental health impacts. And that's true for many med classes. So it's somewhat of a false dichotomy. The other thing to keep in mind is that I think it's an unfortunate result of how treatment for mental health conditions has been misunderstood and maybe mispresented. People think that taking medication is a solution in itself, and it's not. It's just one piece of a compendium, a whole series of strategies. It's just one piece in many things that can help you feel better. Let me give you an analogy that might help. So for myself, as somebody that's prescribing medication, I never prescribe medication by itself, ever. Ever. I never just have somebody sit down and say, take these pills, it's going to make you feel better. No. The bulk of the work that I personally do, and I would say this is true for most people that I know, is to sit down and work with the person on their thought process. It's to help them identify where there are flaws in their thinking and change them. It's to connect them to services and resources that help to boost, educate them, help them understand what they're dealing with, help to add, other tools to their repertoire that they can leverage to help themselves feel better. I think of medication personally as a tool to clear the clouds away. So if you think about an analogy of a city with broken down walls, with a cloud over it, the medication is simply to clear that away so that the person then has the space to actually do the structural work. So it's just a tool, it's just a piece. Now, let us be frank and acknowledge that yes, there have been situations, and quite often actually, unfortunately, where people walk into a doctor's office and they don't do what I just described. They just write them a script. They don't take time to really understand the person. That does happen. It's the truth and it's unfortunate. It is also the case that there are side effects that sometimes make people feel like they're being experimented on. But that is not actually what's going on. There is, believe it or not, the truth is there is a treatment algorithm. There is a prescribed, set of steps that's informed by science, by research. You start with this, then if that doesn't work, then you go to that. If that doesn't work, then you go to this and this and this. So there's a whole science and an art to this, and I'm hoping that's helpful. I'll invite comments by others.
I just wanted to add in reference to when person's going to an office, they're feeling that, I know something is wrong. I feel that I keep having this ache in my arm. I continue to have an ache in my back. As I had mentioned about stress, chronic stress can lead to autoimmune disease and disorders. And then feeling as though the justification is going into a doctor's office, I just needed some medication. They may be having somatic complaints where something is always wrong, but something may be deeper as it relates to trauma that has been unresolved. And so then maybe as the doctor may say, okay, I'm not seeing anything, there's no script, but that script could be very well talking about what happened maybe 5 years ago, what happened in the childhood experience, and let's get to the root so that we can address that through the therapeutic process as well.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to speak to the part where we talk about what if the doctor doesn't know what's going on. So it is very possible that, yes, your doctor doesn't know what's going on. Your doctor is human. And the other thing is you also may not be telling the entire story to your doctor. So the first thing will be clear, be honest about what's going on with you. It's okay to be overly descriptive. It's part of our job to figure out what we need to do to make a diagnosis. The other thing is if you feel like your doctor doesn't quite get you, get a second opinion. Have a second opinion. And now if those two opinions agree and you're still like, no, they still don't know what you're doing, probably it's the time to say time out. Why do two independent people who are saying exactly the same thing and for some reason I don't agree with it? Is it that I'm not ready for treatment? I'm not ready to accept what's going on? Or is it truly that it's something that I may not even be aware of, so I'm not able to give it to them to be able to make a diagnosis? And those are all things that you probably want to explore.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that too. I'll just add that medication, I may encourage whoever is still struggling, see medication as if you were in a race sport and you have to stop. I think I shared this yesterday. At times you stop for refuel for different things. You take your car for servicing. You don't drive your car throughout the year and just say, you know what, I'm going to faith it or pray. The car is going to break down. So there are times where that fuel may be the medication. There are times that fuel may be something else. But like the race sport, it could be different thing. What do you need? And they, if you've seen them, they're giving the racer everything that he may need. His car is this, and so he can get back to the track. The key thing is get back on track. So if medication will get you back on track, then do it. If therapy will get you back on track, then do it. Whatever will keep you moving. You have a lot to offer. You have a lot to do. And sometimes you will need support. I wish I could tell you would not, but I will. I mean, when I had to have my baby, as a doctor, I could not help myself. Somebody else had to help me. So all of us, we're going to need that support. And medication, I tell my patients, is support. It's not meant to overtake your life, overwhelm your life. You may not even need to be on it for maybe throughout your life, like blood pressure medication. If you're exercising, taking your vitamins, you may not need it. So it's not a death sentence. It's not forever. But for now, this is where we're at. And that may change in a month. That's the first piece. And just like what Dr. Shoyinka said, seeing patients, you tell them it's medication and it's never medication. There's nothing in mental health that is just going to be medication alone. There'll be lifestyle modification. So the other piece, the other question of what if the doctor doesn't know? I always say, if I were you, pray for your doctor. When I was going to the hospital to have my baby, I was praying. This is me knowing a lot. No, because anything can happen. And there are people that work amongst us that are not angels, they're called demons. So I will cover my doctor with the blood of Jesus and pray for his mind and his heart and everything. Because angels can partner with your doctor. They don't even have to be Christian. The donkey partnered with the angel and spoke. So guess what? We just need a willing vessel called your doctor by saying yes to treat you. That's his consent for the angels to partner with him. So I would encourage you, if you feel like your doctor doesn't know, it's very possible because we don't know it all. We see in part and we understand in part. But there's a Holy Spirit that can breathe over the mind of that doctor. That the doctor can come back and be like, you know what? I think I got it. I think I saw it. I think I know what is wrong with you. And so you don't now be like, I don't want to see a doctor. No, because the wisdom you seek, like I said earlier, may be in the mouth of that doctor. And then when you're praying, you know what to pray. How do you pray for headache if not for medicine that called it headache? God didn't call it headache. We did. So, but now you can pray, Lord, this is what they said. So it's not a lack of faith. It's not ignoring what the doctor said. No. The doctor has said what they said, but there is a higher doctor than you take it to, and then you pray. So really, it's not, like we said, it's not faith or, it's and. So when they don't understand, whatever they call it, take it back to your dad and let him explain to that doctor and others and whatever they call it, and again, separate yourself from whatever they said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tiwa. We have a good problem right now. We have a lot of questions over there with Dr. Nike, and we want to get to as many of them as possible. So I'm going to ask our panelists when we have a question, if only one or two of you can respond to that question, and then we'll go on to the next one, and we can get more of them answered. Dr. Nike?
This one is kind of linked to this one, so I just think that it's really important that we address it. So we just talked about medication, right? Like, should we or should we not? This question says, I hear, and I think it's important that we address this bit. I hear some people who take mental health meds say that they don't want to take it because it slows them down and keeps them from functioning at work and otherwise as they would like. Can you someone just comment about that really quick?
Yes, that is very true. Many of the medicines that are used to treat mental health conditions are sedating. They cause you to be tired. Some of them, frankly, because they're not precision agents, they tend to affect a broad range of brain functions and a broad range of neurochemical systems in the brain. So some of those, so they may be prescribed to treat mood instability, for example, but they may also act on your ability to think and remember things and learn things. So sometimes those effects are dose dependent. What that means is just by lowering the dose a little bit, you might experience the benefits and not have the side effects. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes you have to actually switch to a different agent. The key to this is something that both both Doctors Oshofiso and Akiyemi said earlier, the key is really to find somebody that gets you and that you feel gets you and that you feel comfortable working with, somebody that listens to you. When you have that, you can work together. If you don't have that, it might be best to find a different provider.
Thank you. One other person like to respond?
I agree.
Thank you, Dr. Tiwa. Dr. Nike?
Okay, so I have, this is a good one. I can relate. It even has a title, Mental Health and Menopause. I see some amen.
Yes, Lord.
Okay. Why is this ignored? And why do other therapists and women gaslight women with the emotional part of menopause? I think in general, maybe just talking about what the mental health component of menopause is would also be helpful.
All right.
To my right.
She's women's health, so.
Okay. First of all, I'll say I'm sorry to hear. Second of all, I'll say even medicine, we have not done enough justice to this, even in medical school. We don't talk too much, well, we did not talk too much about this. And so it's evolving. We're beginning to see, it was there before, but now there is more, awareness is increasing. I would say the mental health component, there is, you probably know, asking this question, the scattered brain, not sleeping, irritability, everybody's avoiding you, you're cranky, because there's an hormonal shift. There's a change in your brain. Every time there's a change in your brain or your body, everything changes, including your behavior, including your thinking, including your actions. So I would say, welcome the new you. Don't fight it. Understand the new you. It's a new version of it. You are evolving, and this is the new stage. Every stage, you evolve. Get to know this new you. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of laziness. And if there are other women criticizing it, it's pretty much from lack of understanding. So you may be the one to educate them, actually. Like, it is a thing. You're not faking it. You're not, it is a thing. But menopause can be really challenging. You don't want to have sex. If you used to have sex before, you don't want to be touched. So it's your new, this is a new version of you. And I think the best word I can say is get to know her. And for men out there, they're not faking it. They're not. They're not avoiding you. It's not you. It's not that there's something wrong with you. No. They are trying to understand themselves. They may not even have the words for it. So I'll encourage you, maybe read together about it, learn, but it is a thing.
Thank you.
And I'm going to follow up on that. Thank you. She's actually leading women's mental health in Hereford Behavioral Health, so that's why I kind of pointed to her. I think one of the other things is to also know, please talk to your doctors. A lot of times when things come up, we're ashamed to talk about it. There are medications that can help, even with the menopausal symptoms, postmenopausal symptoms. So talk to someone. Another thing that they've already alluded to is if you're not exercising, start. It's probably one of the best things you can do for you, whether you're PMSing or you're postmenopausal. It can really help with the regulation and the things that you're kind of going through. And then the last thing I'm going to say is, again, let's extend kindness. Being irritable a lot of times is a sign something is not right. So rather than call that a character of the person, understand that something is not going the way they probably would like it to go. And be gracious, extend kindness. Again, love can cover a multitude of sins and distress.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask a question of my own. It's not on my cards. I'm just going to ask a question like as if I had a card. Can some of you talk to the correlation between marijuana use and psychosis? It's legal in the state now, and I know someone personally who had a negative experience where they will never be the same. They will be on antipsychotic drugs the rest of their lives, or they will probably be, they will never be the same version of themselves in their life. Can you all talk, can someone talk about that and what it does?
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good question. It's a very timely question. So a bit of a long answer. Marijuana is a plant, obviously, that has over 100 chemicals in it, over 100. The two that are most clinically significant are cannabidiol or cannabidiol, which is a more sort of soothing, calming chemical compound. And then you have the THC, the tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the compound that makes people high and that leads to the, that sort of reinforcing thing. But it's also the one that's connected to all the bad effects, including psychosis that you mentioned and some other downstream effects. It's very unfortunate that in the rush or the push to legalize marijuana, there was a lot of misinformation that was put out into, sort of circulation to sort of get people on board with getting it legal. Now, leaving aside all that piece of it, the impacts of cannabis are different for different age groups. Well, let me add one more thing. The version of cannabis or versions that are in circulation now are very, very different than what used to be in the 60s, which is, was another time when it was popular to use. The versions that are in circulation now are genetically modified to have a much higher THC content. So the THC content of many of the compounds now are 20%, some even more than that. So you have increased use, that is, people use more heavily because they feel like, it's medicinal, it's natural. Well, so are opioids, and those kill too. It's medicinal, so I feel like I have a license to use, but it's also that what the concentration is much heavier. So now you have people using more and a more concentrated dose. Now, the effects of cannabis use are different based on the different age groups. So above about 30, 30s, 40s, there are physical health consequences. We were not meant to inhale anything other than air, right? So if we inhale smoke, there are things that come along with the smoke. There are carcinogens. There's potentially some impact on the respiratory system, COPD type symptoms. There are some reports about potential effects on fertility. So there are physical health effects regardless of age, but the mental health effects are most clear when you look at young people and when you look at people who have a predisposing mental health condition or they already have a mental health diagnosis, or they have a vulnerability. What is not in question, there's no question about this, is that there is a link between cannabis use and psychosis. There's no question about it. There is a link. What we don't know is whether it's causal or whether it's one of those epigenetic things that kicks off somebody that's already vulnerable. Now, the range of things that can happen when a young person uses marijuana, especially when they use it heavily, are the following. Psychosis is one of those. And what we know, I was still reading about this a couple of days ago. When you look at all the drugs that can trigger psychosis, alcohol can trigger psychosis, cocaine can trigger psychosis, methamphetamines can trigger psychosis, opioids can trigger psychosis. When you look at all of those, cannabis is the strongest predictor of psychosis among all the drug classes, hallucinogens, all of them. So it's a standout for psychosis and anxiety and depression and suicidality. But there are other problems. Heavy cannabis use can actually drop a person's IQ. It's actually linked to being less intelligent, so to speak. Heavy cannabis use is linked to poor performance. Those tasks of adulthood, that is, I learned to manage my own self. I graduate high school. I further my training or get a job and develop a life as an adult, cannabis seems to interrupt all of those things. You probably heard the term stoner or pothead. I don't like those terms. They're derogatory, but they are true. They describe a syndrome that is actually true. So let me address one other thing. There is this thing about medicinal marijuana. I'm not sure where that came from, honestly. There's no medical society that signed on to that. None. One last thought, medical marijuana use is sometimes sort of advocated for treating mental health conditions. Can't think of a worse thing that you could do, personally. So I do understand that there is a calming effect in the short term. People feel like it's safer or it's more accessible than medication. The evidence does not support that. So my suggestion would be, first of all, don't use marijuana. If you must use it, some version of it, there are actual packaging for kind of that's like they're like pills, like medical pills of CBD, cannabidiol, that have been around long for years. Those have indication for cachexia, that is when people are not hungry, and weight loss and so on. Some for emesis. Those are available. You can take those. The other stuff, the sort of random stuff that people access through dispensaries and all of that, I cannot recommend those for, certainly not for young people, certainly not for persons that have a vulnerability to any of those mental health conditions or already are dealing with one of those conditions, and certainly not for pregnant women.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shoyinka. Anyone else want to add?
I agree.
Dr. Tiwa. We have another question.
We have a bunch of questions, so I'm not sure how we're going to do this. We might not be able to take all of them. So this one, I'm looking at you, Leah. What can the church and parents do to help young people recognize and deal with stress and emotions? And then I guess anybody else who wants to answer.
I think that, well, first off, shout out to whoever asked that, because that's the first step, is acknowledging also that particularly for Gen Z, even Gen Alpha, I was born in 97, so some people consider me end millennial, some people consider me Gen Z, regardless. But specifically talking about the younger Gen Zs and Alpha, keep in mind that the level of stress that they experience might be, well, it is different than whatever you experienced at whatever age that you are right now. Because it's really important when you think about technology. Like, I remember, like, when I held my first iPhone, but now it's like kids can have iPads. And so even when you're not even thinking from a technological perspective in terms of information, that screen is moving so fast that, like, their brains are processing way more information than your brain ever did at that age, because it simply wasn't possible. So just from, like, that perspective, I think it's really important for parents to be mindful that, like, your kid is experiencing, your kid, your cousin, whatever younger person you have in your life is experiencing, like, a different, like, level of stress that you may not be able to totally relate to, like I said, because it just simply didn't exist. So the first thing to me is just acknowledging it. And then the second thing is make sure that your house or whatever space you're creating, whether you work with youth or, like I said, if you have younger cousins, kids, whatever it may be, make sure that you're an open and honest and welcoming space when they come to talk to you about their stress. And keep in mind, like, let's say you're in middle school and you just, took your first science test and you got a C and you're freaking out. At that point in their life, also keep in mind that, like, that's a big deal to them. So, like, always keep in mind to bring it back into the perspective of how big an event might be to them. Because, you can help them bring it back and be like, you're gonna take a lot of other tests. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm sorry that, like, this happened and, like, that was a really stressful thing for you, and this feels really big, because it does feel really big. So make sure that you acknowledge where their feelings are at, and then you can use your advice as, somebody who's older to kind of like give them perspective and be like, hey, it's okay, help them kind of reel it in. So yeah, it's just that balance of acknowledging, yes, they are experiencing something that you may not have related to, and then also help them realize like, hey, give them some perspective, but also keep in mind to them that that is a really big deal.
Thank you so much, Leah. Thank you.
You're a very wise young lady. So, the next question I think we can also, maybe might require a psychiatrist answer. There was an excellent example about how mental stress can lead to a heart attack. Do you know or think that mental health disorders are linked to non-heart, non-blood flow-like issues like cancer? Do I need to repeat it?
The short answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it is linked to pretty much everything else in the body. Irritable bowel syndrome, cancer, autoimmune diseases, name it. Yes.
Okay.
I can just add to that because of the weak immune system. So when the immune system, so with trauma or mental health challenges, like I shared earlier, so you have this dysregulation of the nervous system, the endocrine system, the inflammatory, and the, I think I'm missing one, immune system. With the immune system, you need your immune system for everything, everything. So once that is weakened, the gates are open to everything. So it just depends on what really comes in. So just like what Dr. Arista said, yes to everything. Mental health has been shown to be linked to everything.
Thank you. So in short, our mental health determines our physical health, and vice versa. Okay, this last question is heavier. I think it's a good one. It's about mental health and the church. The writer says, in my opinion, church is where the brokenness started from for many of us. This is why I feel mental health is on the rise, I guess, in the church. I know God intended church for it to be a place of worship, but in some not at all. In some, it became an unsafe place that fostered pain. So here's the question. How do you heal from that pain? And how do you know it's where you need to be to heal? I guess, how do you know which place of worship you're to be to heal?
That's a really good question.
I want to
Anyone?
start with the
Okay, Dr. Jan.
historical trauma. Historically, persons have looked at the church as the place of healing, where I go if I have pain, because again, when we talked last night about I can just pray the pain away, they have the answers there. I'm not supposed to tell. I'm not supposed to make a big deal about the pain that I'm actually having, because maybe I can get somebody, a minister, to pray and lay hands on me, and that could help. And so the misconception of the miscommunication of the historical efforts that went into, even in the intergeneration of the family dynamics of, we're going to go to church and this is what we do, everything is going to be okay because we need to go to church. And then that also can close a door to where the efforts can come in from someone being able to talk, because they feel that, all right, you're not going to understand because you're just going to say, oh, did you pray about it? Did you fast? Did you read the Bible? Every answer, you could just look at the Bible. And so the open space of inviting and welcoming individuals to be able to have a space within the church, as the church can start saying this is a safe space. It is okay to not be okay.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Thank you, Dr. Schrager. So I was just going to add to what Dr. Jan said, that church is a spiritual hospital. And I think when we begin to see it that way, it may help all of us, including even the men of God. I work in a hospital, but that hospital also serves me. I have my own doctor, or I should have my own doctor. With church, unfortunately, hurt people, hurt men of God, hurt people in the church, also hurt people because they are bleeding through leadership. And so my encouragement from this question is really for everyone to look inward. How have I shaped the experience of someone that came to this church? How have I contributed to their hurt from church? Church should be a place of healing, not a place of hurting or damaging people. But I think for me, the first answer is because we can't give what you don't have. And so if I have bitterness, that is exactly what I'm going to be distributing to everybody. But if I have joy, or if I have understanding, if I have compassion, that's also what I'm going to give. So I think it's time for us to step up. And just like the person asking the question said, it's because people in the church are beginning to speak up. Yes. And that's why we're having this session where please speak up. No, because you're a Christian doesn't mean you should keep quiet about the abuse. Please, no. There are some things you can't pray away. God will not do what you should do. He won't. He loves us, but he didn't take away our brains. He won't do the work that we should do. So it is prayer. I think I said it yesterday. It is prayer and something. It's never prayer alone. It's never fast alone, which was what was said before. Anything happen, pray. Prayer is great, but it has to be prayer and something. Faith without work is dead. So I just want to charge, including me, as I'm speaking, that if we can be very conscious of our role in the church, we make up the community. We are called the church. If we can be more conscious, then I can shape the experience of the next person that comes to this church. And then to let them know, ultimately, they need to separate me from God. Because God is love. But we have tainted the image to others because people don't know him. They know him through us. So if I can stay with that, I think that changes the way I speak, what I say, even the days I'm struggling, because I'm an ambassador of him. So I think our identity is very critical in the future of the church, so we don't lose who we are. Even when we are bleeding, we know where to take it so we don't bleed on others.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Just to add to that real quick, to whoever it is, first, I'm sorry that you've gone through that, but it's not uncommon, no doubt about it, but it's still hurtful. The first thing I would say is acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you are hurting. Don't try to cover it. Don't try to sugarcoat it. It's okay. We all get hurt, so acknowledge it. The second thing I'm going to say is find trusted lips, trusted partners, people that you can trust to kind of talk about this. It could be a professional person, could be a friend, could be a minister, another minister, but talk about it. That's one of the most helpful things you can do. And then the last thing I'm going to say, and this is not by no means exhaustive list, draw boundaries. Sometimes we get hurt because we don't draw boundaries. Whenever you venture into that new place, either going back to where you were hurt or going to a different place, think about what do I want to put in place that does not allow me to get hurt again. Did I overshare? Did I volunteer myself so much and people took advantage of me? Those kinds of things. Begin to think about, I'm going to draw those boundaries now so that when I need them, I have them in place.
Thank you so much. That's great. We're good? One more?
What they said.
Thank you. We're almost out of time, so I do want to ask you all one question. And go in whatever order the answer comes to you. But I would love to know, and maybe some others would, what do you all do for self-care? Is there anything specifically that you do to take care of yourselves and that we could use as a tip to take care of ourselves?
A moment of silence.
Okay.
Being still and knowing that God is who he is. So a moment of just sitting sometimes with self, have a meeting with the mind, with self, and of course not doing a whole lot of self-talking, but even self-talk of encouragement, of giving affirmations, and again, meditating upon the word. So taking that time, and it's definitely necessary to have that time of separating, even from your work, from home, from life, and just maybe even if it's 15 minutes to an hour once a week.
I think I feel more at peace and relaxed just hearing you say that. So thank you. Anyone else?
So I'll share and share, obviously, where I'm a work in progress. There's some pieces of this that I really struggle with. We talked about sleep earlier. That is a challenge because for years I just, I would work through all hours of day and night. So that piece is a challenge, and I'll acknowledge that. Still working on it. But the pieces that do work, time with the Lord in the morning, that's non-negotiable. The meditation piece that I mentioned, that is also very important, because for me that's the equivalent of putting on the helmet of salvation. That's literally, it's getting my mind into the right frame. I go for a walk, if possible, a couple of times a day, and I try to make it in the woods where I can, where I'm proximate to nature. That really helps. I'm not always able to do these things, but as much as I can, I try to have an exercise program that I try to stick to pretty regularly. And I have times in the week that I just schedule for myself. I don't take calls during that time. I don't, I've tried to stack everything else, so I have this, and it's dedicated, because I'm an introvert. I need that time away. I need to recharge and unplug. And then I have friends that I check in with regularly. Some of them are right here. So it's a program. It's an integrated program that over the years, I've had to develop intentionally. So I have a nutrition program that I'm working on. Still, all of this is still a work in progress, but it's an integrated program.
Thank you so much. Those are such good tips, especially for the rest of us introverts. I appreciate that. Anyone else?
So for me, sleep. I don't sleep all the time, but when I have 3 little ones under 6, so sometimes I can't sleep. But when I get to sleep, I sleep. Oh Lord, sleeping is a hobby for me. So I actually enjoy sleeping. Before medical school, I could compete with sleeping. I could get PhD for sleeping. So, but life has changed, and life is in phases. So I sleep when I can, and when I don't, I just know that it's again a phase. It's not forever. The other thing I do, just like what Dr. Shoyinka said, is pray. So I worshiping where I'm crying, all the nerves, everything is out there. So, but I worship where I'm able to just pour my heart out. Like when I'm overwhelmed, more like David, where I don't have it. I'm struggling, maybe as a mom or as a wife, and that refuels me. I notice that the times where I weep in and exhaust myself in the presence of God, I actually get up as though, where were we? Let's go. So that refuels me. And then relationships, my husband is very supportive, where I can talk to him and spend time with my kids. So I just try to make every moment count. I may not have 5 hours with them, but I'm for quality over quantity, very intentional with quality. And so relationships would do that for me. I can call friends, talk. So those are like the, then serving. When I'm struggling sometimes, like if I go serve, help somebody, maybe I'm coaching, do that. That actually refuels me that I'm helping somebody. I can actually feel like, what a great day. So that helps.
Those are all great. Thank you so much. Dr. Esther, you want to add anything?
Just so sleep is a challenge for me too, so I'm not going to go to that one. But some of the things I also do, I listen a lot to audible books just for fun. And I'm on the road a lot, so I do that a lot. I do a prayer journal, something I learned from the book Too Busy Not to Pray. Good book, by the way. I do things like I'm learning a new language, Duolingo. Now I'm getting competitive with it. So I do a little bit of exercise in the mornings as well. And one of the things I do, my husband, is once I'm kind of getting dressed in the morning, I kind of turn on Joel Austin, kind of one of my people that kind of speaks to me, so I kind of listen to that. Okay, so listening to a message could be something else you do for self-care.
Thank you. Thank you. Leah?
I think it's really important, just to tag team off of what Dr. Shoyinka and Dr. Tiwa said, is that your acts of self-care will inevitably change with the seasons that you're in, not only like the physical seasons of life, like you said, whether being single, having kids, or also like activities with like the weather, and like if you love to like take a nature walk, like make sure you have a backup for the winter, even if it's like walking around 12 Oaks Mall, like whatever that replacement activity is. But for me right now, because I found myself realizing that my previous self-care activities weren't hitting the same way when I relocated here. I used to bake a lot, and I found myself not doing that as much when I moved here, but unfortunately I found my new one, and it has been salsa dancing. So once a week I do my salsa class, and that has added so much joy and happiness to my life.
I can see that. How fun. Good for you. Thank you all so much for sharing. I think all of you said something that the rest of us can pick up on and try and incorporate into our daily lives as well. Thank you. This ends the panel portion of our Mental Health Summit. And so I just want to thank all of you so much for coming. We have someone else.